Hi students, my name is Miss Elliott and I am here to teach you about equivalent fractions. Have you heard of equivalent fractions before? But hold up, let's take a little step back and just focus on the main word, fractions. I want you to tell me if you know anything about fractions. What is a fraction? If you said that a fraction is part of a whole, you would be correct. So we are going to do a little chant to remind ourselves about what a fraction is. So we're going to make an F with our hand. I hope I'm making this in the right direction. It might be like this, but I think it's like this. So I want you to make an F with your hand, okay? Can you show me what your F is? So a fraction, because fraction starts with F, and it also looks like part of something. So we're going to say a fraction, repeat after me. A fraction is part, now we're going to make the circle so it looks like a P. And we're going to say is part of a whole. Repeat that. Of a whole. A fraction is part of a whole. Of a whole. Good, now let's say it together. Ready? A fraction is part of a whole. So what is a fraction? Part of a whole. Good. So we know the basics of a fraction. Now, what are some fractions that you know? What is this fraction? 1/2. What is this fraction? 1/4. I hope, again, that's not backwards, but you can kind of see there's my whole pizza. Do you like pizza? What pizza topping is your favorite? Yum. All right, so we have our fractions here. So what other fractions can you think of? We can split the pizza into thirds, right? We can split it 3 ways. We can spit it. I don't want to spit out my pizza, it's too delicious. Split it into sixths or eighths or tenths or twelfths or 20ths, but we're not going to get that far today. So a fraction is what? A fraction is part of a whole. Awesome. So here's our whole pizza. Fraction is part of it. So if we know that a fraction is part of a whole, what do you think an equivalent fraction is? Any ideas? Okay, well, we're going to go over this first part. Equivalent, do you see this up at the top here of your anchor chart? You should have an anchor chart similar to mine. Yours might be on your computer. Yours might be printed out. Whatever the case may be, we're going to fill this in together. So make sure that you have a pencil or your anchor chart ready to help me fill this out. So our first set is equivalent means, any ideas of what that means? Equal. So if you said equal, give yourself a pat on the back. So we have equivalent. Everyone hold up 2 hands and say equivalent. Say it again. Equivalent. Equivalent. Everyone repeat after me. Equivalent. Equivalent means equal. 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 So say that with me again. Equivalent means equal. Equal. Good, let's say it all together. Equivalent means equal. Awesome. So I can take this little guy off of my screen here. Equivalent means equal. Good job. Now, equivalent fractions, you might already know about them. Raise your hand if you know about equivalent fractions. You might not, and that's okay. But I did want to remind you of one quick thing before we get started with equivalent fractions, because they can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Do you ever have math problems that are a little bit tricky? Maybe you don't know, maybe you need to ask a teacher or a friend or a parent. That's okay, because that means that we're learning. So if you ever get stuck and you are kind of confused, you don't know what to do, there's so much going on, you just don't know what the answer is. I want you to remember growth mindset. What is growth mindset? It means that we're growing our brain, right? It's getting bigger. It's like a muscle. So if you're lifting weights, you're growing your muscles this way. Brain growth means that we are growing, we're stretching our brain muscle. So here's a little encouragement that I want you to say. If you feel stuck or discouraged or you don't know what to do, I want you to say this. Okay, you ready? I'm going to do it first and then I'm going to teach it to you. I rock, I roll, I make fractions from a whole. Okay, can we say that together? I want you to repeat after me. I rock, show that you rock. Say that again. I rock, I rock, I roll, I roll. Okay, let's repeat that. Repeat after me again. I rock, I rock, I roll, I roll. I make fractions from a whole, from a whole. Can you say that all together? I rock, I roll, I make fractions from a whole. Good. So whenever you're feeling sad or stuck or discouraged, I want you to say, I rock, I roll, I make fractions from a whole. Okay? Okay. So what does equivalent mean? Let's say it again. Equivalent means equal. Very good. We're making an equal sign. Okay, so how do I know if two fractions are equivalent? So we have three different ways we can tell that two fractions are equivalent. Okay, so the first way is, can you read that with me? Are the same size. So for example, I gotta find my parts here. So I have 1/2, right? 1/2 of the pizza pie piled high. So if I want to know if my two fractions, if two mushroom pieces, which is how much? 1/4, right? So how do I know if 1/2 equals 2/4? Well, one way I can do that is by seeing if they are the same size, okay? There's 1/4, everyone say 1/4. 2/4. Are they the same size? Yeah, so they are equivalent. So I want you to repeat after me. Two fractions are equivalent if they are the same size. If they are the same size. Good, let's say that one more time. Two fractions are equivalent if they are the same size. If they are the same size. Yeah, you can get into it. So if you have that blank, make sure you fill it out. You can pause this video and then start it again. Okay, so we know that two fractions, say it with me, two fractions are equivalent if they are the same size. If they are the same size. Good. All right, now we can also know if two fractions are equivalent if they cover the same area of a whole. So I want you to say that with me. Two fractions are equivalent if they cover the same area of a whole. The same area of a whole. So what does that mean? That means the same thing, very similar to what we just said. But if I have a whole, here's my whole pepperoni pizza, and I put 1/2 on one side, will my 2/4 cover the same area that my, sorry, I lost a piece. Whoops. That my 1/2 did? Let's see. So we have 1/4 here. And 1/4 here. Are they equivalent? Yes. Because what do? They cover the same area of a whole. Good. So let's repeat after me. Two fractions are equivalent if they are the same size, and if they cover the same area of a whole. The same area of a whole. Awesome. Make sure you write that down and then come back. You can press pause. All right, so we have two fractions are equivalent if they are the same size and they cover the same area of a whole. Now, we have one more part. You ready for this? Can I get a drum roll? Oh, sorry. All right. Are at the same point on a number line. Raise your hand if you know what a number line is. What's a number line? Tell me. A number line is a line that tells you the points on it, right? So we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1, all of that. So if they're on the same point on a number line, so let's say this part. Ready? Repeat after me. Two fractions are equivalent if they are at the same point, on a number line. So you're going to extend your hands. So two fractions are equivalent if they are on the same point of a number line. So I have a little number line here, and I also have some other pieces that we're going to play around with. But let's say all three one more time. You ready for this? I don't know if you're ready for this. Are you ready for this? Okay, let's do it. Two fractions are equivalent if they are the same size, cover the same area of a whole, and are on the same point on a number line. Very good. All right, so we have here, actually first, sorry, pause and write that third one down. Okay, so great. So now what do I have here? I have a box that, how much is covered? How much is blue of that box? 1/2, right? Very good. So I'm going to move this guy down a little bit. So we have 1/2. If you don't have this filled in yet on your spot, you can go ahead and fill that in. 1/2 is just 1/2. Pretty simple, right? We know that how many halves make a whole? 2 halves make a whole, right? So we can also say, so now we're going to practice this equivalent fraction, okay? So now we have 1/2 can also equal something else. Did you know that? So 1/2 can equal, I'm going to see if I can do this. Oops, maybe not. There we go. So 1/2 can equal something. How many parts are covered there? It still looks like 1/2 is covered, but now we drew another line. So how many boxes or how many squares are in that picture now? 4, right? And how many are colored? 2. Good. So we can say 1/2 equals 2/4. So if you need to write that, go ahead and write that down. So what does 1/2 equal? 2/4. And these fractions are equivalent because they mean that they are equal. Very good. So 1/2 equals 2/4, which is what we already talked about with our pizza fractions too. But we can even go even further. So if I have this picture now, whoa, now we have how many boxes? Can you count them with me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the bottom of the denominator of our fraction should be what? 8. Very good. Now, how many of those 8 rectangles are colored? 4. Very good. So what should the numerator be then in our fraction? 4. Very good. So now let's take this part. So 2/4 equals 4/8. So guess what else that means? We can take out the 2/4 part. Ready? Oops, that's not what I'm gonna do. 1/2 equals 4/8 too. Yeah, because it covers, they're the same size, they cover the same area of a whole, and they also are the same point on a number line, which is what we're gonna look at next. So if you don't have that filled in, go ahead and pause this and fill that in. So we know that 1/2 equals 2/4, and 2/4 equals 4/8. Okay, so now let's look at your number line. So my number line, again, has a little something covered up, so don't mind that. I have two number lines here. I have 0 and 1 on either side. Sorry, 0 and 1, I think. I'm not sure exactly if this mirrors or not, but you can let me know. And on the second one, what other fractions do you see there? 1/4 and 3/4, yes. So we're missing some numbers here. What number do you think we're missing on the top number line? Drum roll, please. Oops, not so far down. 1/2. So if you don't have 1/2 written on that number line, go ahead and write that. So 1/2 is the middle point on the number line between 0 and 1. Okay? There's the same distance between 0 and 1/2 that there is between 1/2 and 1. So if we know that 1/2 is in the middle of that number line, what do you think is in the middle of the bottom number line? You said 2/4, you are right. Give yourself a pat on the back. So we know that 1/2 equals 2/4 because what? They are at the same point on a number line. Very good. So you can go ahead and circle those two as well, because that just tells us that they are on the same point. Okay, so now we know what is an equivalent fractions. Equivalent means equal. Equivalent means equal. Good. And we know that two fractions are what? Equivalent if they what? Are the same size, cover the same area of a whole, and what else? Are on the same point of a number line. Very good. You guys are getting this. I love it. Okay, we have one more part and then we're going to be all done and you guys get to practice this. So now what if we want to make equivalent fractions? Should we stir it up like cake? You sure can. We use fractions when we're cooking and baking. We can measure a 1/4 cup, a 1/2 cup, a 1/3 cup, all of that, 1 cup. So this is how you make equivalent fractions. Are you ready? So we do either 1 or 2 different operations. We do one operation, but we can either multiply or divide. Everyone say multiply, multiply, or divide, divide, right? So I'm going to take these off and I want you to go ahead and write that in your blanks if you have them. Awesome. Can you read that part with me that starts with multiply? We're missing another space, but let's see if we can figure it out. You ready? Multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator by the blank number. Let's look at our picture. What do you think that blank should be? Multiply or divide the numerator and denominator by the blank number. So we see 2 and 2 and 3 and 3. So I think the number or the missing word should be, drum roll please, same. If you said same, give yourself a high five. Okay, and write the word same. So to make an equivalent fraction, we have to either multiply or divide the numerator. What's the numerator? The number on the top, and the denominator, the number on the bottom, by the same number. So if I have a fraction 1/2, sorry, I lost my pieces again. 1/2, I can't multiply 3 on top and 5 on the bottom, right? Because that would not be equivalent. That would not be equal. So we have to do the same thing to the top that we do to the bottom. So let's look at our 3/5 fraction. So if we want to make an equivalent fraction for that, we need to multiply because it is already down as far as it can go. We can't divide it by any other number because 3 and 5 are both prime numbers, right? So, and if you haven't learned about prime numbers yet, that's okay too. So if we can multiply them though, so we're gonna multiply these by 2. What is 3 times 2? 6, very good. And what is 5 times 2? 10, good job. So 3/5 and 6/10 are what? Equivalent fractions, or they are also equal, right? So go ahead and write 6/10 down on your page or type it. We could also multiply 3/5 by 3, 6, 10, 100, and we would still get equivalent fractions, but we just got to do what we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom, right? All right, then we also can divide. So are 6 and 9 prime numbers? Nope, they aren't, because we can divide them, right? So if we divide 6 and 9 by 3, what do you think we would get? What is 6 divided by 3? 2. And what is 9 divided by 3? 3, very good. So 6/9 is equal to what? 2/3. Yeah, those are equivalent fractions. So if you ever want to make an equivalent fraction, all you got to do is multiply or divide. Now I can't do divide this way. I guess I could, but this is the divide symbol on your computer. So that's why I was doing divide. So, which is also fraction. So that's kind of fun to see that. So we learned, what did we learn today in our lesson? We learned that equivalent means equal, good. And 2 fractions are what? Equivalent if they are the same size, good. If they cover the same area of a whole, very good. And they are the same point on a number line. Very good. Did you see all of our different ways that we learned about equivalent fractions? And then we also have, how do I make an equivalent fraction? What do I need to do? Multiply or divide what? The numerator and the denominator by what? The same number. Very good. So now what I'd like for you to do is I want you to practice this with the pages that your teacher is giving you. And I hope that you remember that if you get stuck or you don't understand, you can come back to this equivalent fractions chart, and then you can also give yourself a little pep talk. Do you remember our pep talk? Oh, that's a hard word to say. Hard words to say. I rock, I roll, I make fractions from a whole. Let's say it again one more time. I rock, I roll, I make fractions from a whole. Good job, good learning, keep learning. I'm so proud of you, and I know that you'll continue to learn and grow and do great things. And thank you for letting me teach you today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you again soon.